That's good to know. Thank you.
In that expo book over there, I met one of the microgreen growers by ourselves. They had at least, I would say at least 10 different things like.
So there's clearly a lot more work I can do on this, but I mostly put this together as an exercise to kind of help you think through as you, whatever your product is, whether it's mushrooms, whether it's microgreens. You don't have to get a subscription to Mintel. I only had access to that because I'm a university employee. There's a lot of activities that you can do, a lot of free data that's available to you as a farmer, where you can ground through some of these numbers that you're hearing out there. And do your own market research. Yes.
One thing that was never really like, as I was going through the whole process of starting with mushroom, no one really explicitly said like, make sure that you sell within a week. Or like the timing of how long, like even with microgreens, there's a certain like limit to how long they're good for. And that's the whole thing with specialty mushrooms, why they're not as many placements. You have to know how to manage everything that goes into it in a short period of time.
That's a really good point that specialty crops like the specialty mushrooms and the microgreens have a really short shelf life, and that's why you don't see them in the grocery store. That's why there is a potential niche as a local grower, because it's not something people can get in any other way because they don't sit on the shelf well. But if you don't have that customer lined up right away to buy it, you're going to lose your investment. That's what I'm saying. I'm gonna keep us rolling and get Dave up to talk about his research. So Dave is my counterpart in Anne Arundel County. He's been doing some really cool work at the Anne Arundel County Extension Office, building an urban farm there. All right, give me just a sec to get it shared.
Blocking the screen, so I'm giving away goodies.
All right, almost there. Okay, I think you should be able to advance now.
All right, so what I'm here this afternoon to share with you, I'm really excited about this meeting too. How urban farming is something I really that takes me back to my grandparents. I grew up in Brooklyn Park. And so, you know, South Baltimore, Brooklyn Park, native my whole life, and then Anne Arundel County Extension. And I actually farmed at the Naval Academy Dairy in Anne Arundel County when I started with 19. After my both grandfathers worked on me and got me into the farm. So you can grow up in Brooklyn Park, you grow up in Baltimore, be a farmer. And that, to me, that's exciting. And so I'm kind of coming home with the urban farming. I've been focused mainly on large scale agriculture, more conventional. I'm an agronomist and a weed scientist, and I was full-time farmer. We had 146 acres. That's a Naval Academy Dairy. That's there. But I still always had my garden and still had my roots back in my grandparents. And so I really got excited about looking. Well, maybe I was a little bit down. I got down a little bit when I saw how much we've been urbanizing in my life. I can remember we had farmers in Humphrey, Brooklyn Park, Belle Grove. We had farmers, you know, and I can remember those farmers taking wagons and upstream through my neighborhood selling watermelon, strawberries, seasonal. We lost it somehow, and I'm excited it's coming back. And we got a lot of opportunities out there, and so I started the urban farming concept in 2022. So we're 2 years into it. It's at the Anne Arundel County Extension site, and I really think farming urban is about farming ourselves. And so I thought maybe I'd just share with you my concept of it and how I got actually on a research project for urban farming. And this is my goal as an extension agent. I'm an extension agent in Anne Arundel County, been doing it for 26 years, going 27. Dairy farm for 18 years at the Naval Academy Dairy, and farmed growing up. In fact, I paid my tuition at Maryland with a quarter-acre watermelon out down Pasadena, Maryland. So I never stopped agriculture. You know, it's just and every farmer a better farmer. That's my goal. So that's what I want, and I hope that I can make all the farmers here better. At least think about they have to. We got to feed the world, right? We want to do it well. We got to become better producers. And then I take a picture like this. This is over top, pretty much close where I grew up, Glen Burnie and Ferndale, and down in Brooklyn Park there, Humphrey. And what is nice when you look on Google Earth is you can kind of drill in and see, hey, there's still green space there. You know, which tells me there's opportunity for a little vineyard or a little peach or a little apple or anything that you want to think of, right? And so we got to take I think making it a reality in everything we do. That's what I love to hear today. That's kind of my vision for it. I also, every farmer to become a better farmer, I recognize, anyone heard of Knott's Handbook? really good vegetable guys, right? I go to these pages in here because it tells me what I should be producing. Now, no one likes to be an average farmer, at least that's the last thing I want to be. I don't want to be considered average territory. I want to be a good farmer, right? And so what are good farmers yielding on these crops that we want to grow? That's what I want to focus on. And so Knox does a good job of letting me know what the USDA says you can yield. And there's other documents that can help us. I think Mia has one to share with Rutgers, it's really good. Well, we started the Anne Arundel County Extension Urban Farming Research Clinic in 2022. Brian Hunter, that's Brian here, Heather, she was my intern last year. Previous to that, I had Michaela, and I'll probably hopefully get another intern this summer. Heather stayed on with me. And I just want to kind of walk you through kind of how we got from actually thinking about it to reality, right? We got on the ground, boots on the ground. And Brian's retired, but then he's full time with farming. That's Herb Reed. He was an extension educator at Calvert County. He come back and help me on putting fingers in. So I'll just share with what we did. And on this one little acre, that's actually right next to my office in Anne Arundel County Extension. And it's right on the old Naval County dairy property. You have to go by there and some of the photos and crop there. And so come on down and visit us. We took this little acre. It actually spawned out of Liz shared the urban Anne Arundel, Prince George's County urban farming work. I thought I want to do more education in urban farming. I want to do more research. 2022, what did we do? Well, we took this piece at 1 acre. It had been abandoned, actually had trees on it when I bush hogged it. It was old pasture kind of ground with a lot of weeds and some trees. And I thought, well, I gotta get this thing whipped into shape, right? So year one was to kind of whip it in shape. So here's an overview of the area. You'll see pictures as you go through the slides here of how we whipped it in shape. And I thought, let's make it simple: popcorn, Indian corn, pumpkins. We're gonna make a place for the high tunnel. And I thought I'd just put foxtail mills in there, paint, control the weeds, build up the soil. That's year one. And I remember I teach farmers conventional and organic. So I'm actually a teacher course in Maryland every semester, 21 years. I can't believe it. Spring, every fall and spring, I taught a course on pesticide use and safety at the University of Maryland at College Park. And so I get about 20 students every semester to talk about pesticides. I like to call them plant protection. Okay. And whether they're certified organic or not, we still a lot of tests we have to do, right? And so I like the biochemical. So when I took that air, there's the field up here, and took the plow to it. And then that's the only time I hope to do that much of an intensive plowing. But then you can see we put our crops in there, and by the end of the summer, we had a pretty magnificent stand. Now, you'll notice that it's pretty weed free. I use because an acre, I'm not gonna hold it. But even herbicides doesn't mean you're not out there holding. Okay, so but you can see we whipped the landscape right into what I think back into an agricultural setting. So we had pumpkins and Indian corn, and popcorn and millet all growing up there. And by July, we had a pretty amazing. We conquered it, right? I feel like, hey, it's agriculture. It's pretty impressive. Pest control strategies for me are, we look at the natural strategies that we have in place, hopefully all we conserve all those natural predators out there. We make ecologically, we try to make our farm as ecologically home, if you will, for most of the beneficials. We put applied controls in. Of course, that would be the plow and the disc, and maybe even a little bit of herbicides that I talked about, pesticides. And very integrated. I teach integrated pest management. And then this is my market garden and my house. So we do a lot of cover cropping. I'm actually a veteran. I was during the no-kill revolution that I got my training. Mathematics is always important, and when it comes to pest management, this is Pettigrews' work in the early 80s, beginning of integrated pest management. It's pest density over time, and at some point, if we allow the pest population to get too high, we lose money, economic loss, right? And so it has a really neat mathematical equation. And I've got some handouts here to get.
You want me to hand it around?
Yeah, I've got 2 handouts. And one of them is thresholds. And the other one is an overview of the urban farm. So you can have that correctly. But the interesting thing is, the first thing is cost of control. How much is it going to cost me to control those pests, right? Now, it could be I go out and pick the insects off my hand, right? There's a cost to that. Or I could use a organically certified insecticide and go out and use that. Or maybe I decide, that I'm going to go conventional. I'm going to go make a product that is conventional. But anyway, we have a cost control, and then we have the value of the crop. cost of control over the value times the amount of damage that that pest can possibly impart. That's how you get threshold numbers based on that. You go down the road, I'm handing out threshold sheets and for each one of the vegetables, and it'll tell you.
So sorry.
It might be, so many cutworms for 10 feet of row. So you can have an actual number, and farmers can know then when they're likely, these pests are coming up to some action threshold, that's what the thresholds are, you wanna kill the pest here. Okay, you don't want to lose money. So you want to control the pest, monitor the pest, so I want to encourage you to think about integrated pest management in your farm. Because you've got to protect that yield. That's vital to making sure that you reach non-annual yield, right? So again, being a good farmer, and those are the thresholds I hand you. And they're very specific, 3 pages there for all the vegetable crops, okay? And you can know exactly when you need to go out there and do something. When, by watching these pests and monitoring these pests. Anyone use IPM, I think, has used it to this point where they use thresholds? I guarantee you the farmers out there are doing that, okay? They know when they're making the appropriate decision to use a control of that. And in 2022, I can just show you, I kept that clean with just a few fungicides and insecticides. You can use organic substitution because it's conventional ones I use, but the main thing is you have control of the pest, right? You want pumpkins, you want them to look good. Well, here's 2023. I got really excited in 2023. So Brian came on, and it's only a stone's throw from the extension office over here to our little 1 acre field. So I want to share with you what we did in 2020. So I put in the handout there that you have kind of a flat plan, and that's pretty much the way it looks like back here, the way it kind of lays out. So as you see the pictures that we go through, kind of think of yourself, and this little area is about 1 acre. And then this is the way it's laid out in that 1 acre. And here's my little color sketch, and I will sketch it out on graph paper to make sure it's scale. And so in that little place, we put peaches, apples, vineyards, hops yards, sunflowers, asparagus run, high tunnels and of peppers, pumpkins, and open pollinated corn, buckwheat, and beans. A lot going on, right? That's a lot going on. It was really fun. There's my crew, and we had a great time. So I took this in August of, well, I didn't take it. This is Google Earth. If you go on Google Earth, this is what I thought. Isn't that cool? I pulled that off Google Earth, and I can see my hops there, my vineyard, my run of blackberries, apple trees, peach trees, buckwheat, bees. You can see the little beehive down there. Corn, and then pumpkins, and then the high column. Sunflowers, and then right here is a couple rows of asparagus by seed, right? Oh, that's just fantastic. And so we got a nutrient management plan early on. So there's our nutrient management plan for 2023. So all this is online. So you can kind of go online and go, I encourage you to go to my Urban Farming website, sign up to my newsletter, see what we're doing. Come on out to the field days that we have. So I'm hoping to do more of that. Of course, nutrient management tells you exactly what to put on there, right? Me, I really didn't have to put much on, but nitrogen is probably the biggest thing. 100 pounds, 175. Now I use urea. You know, I'm not going to, I could keep things in balance, right? Very cheap. A couple bags of urea is all I needed for that couple weeks, so very cheap, easy for me to apply. Remember, Brian and I and Heather are doing it all ourselves. If you're looking at the crew. And here's putting a high tunnel. I got a little help on that. Talk about Milt's greenhouse. You're talking about getting a high tunnel cost share money, right? It took me 7 months on a waiting list to get this high tunnel. Okay, so build that into your strategy too. You're not just going to call up and say, I want a high tunnel. Sometimes there's a long wait just to get the supplier. Milt's is really good. There's kind of, and I think total bill was 2 payments down here, about $2,500 each. So look at $5 grand for just this material list of the green of this high tunnel, right? It's a 21 by 48, I believe. And we put that thing in this spring. We went in this spring. So we started last November. So November 9th, we broke ground, laid it out, and that would be where the millet was the previous year. And then we went ahead, I put rye in the whole, I always cover crop every side rye. So I put rye in the previous year. This year I just put rye. There we are, building a high tunnel. High tunnel with roll-up sides. I want my roll-up sides to be at least a foot above any crop that we want to have inside. That's a really critical thing. If the roll-up sides are too low, and the tomatoes are up here, you'll cook the tomatoes. Okay, air has to come through. So I like to get my roll-up sides at least as tall as me. And of course I got electric motors now that'll come up and go up and down based on the temperature. So I got that installed. So there's building greenhouse. There it is, wrapped, getting those roll up sides, getting the peppers in. Now, inside the high tunnel, I typically only do is fungicides and insecticides. I don't like herbicide in the high tunnels. And so I just find a little bit of tillage and of course we put the triple tape in there and get those peppers set pretty quick. Different peppers, just the peppers here, planted in the 5th of May, it's the 7th of May. See that nice waiting zone with it, all that tree. And then I like to use straw. And so that's pretty much it. You know, I think very, of course, we pick peppers. There's Brian and Heather picking peppers, that's jalapenos and serranos. And we went down to Fern Brewery and they made the spicy urban farmer. We put 55 pounds of hot peppers in the urban farm. You try it?
No, they use their box.
Well, he did. We'll show you that in a minute.
Okay.
And then so peppers, I only had a couple sprays, mainly a couple fungicide, and I had stink bugs. And I put a little bit of difenthrin, which is a conventional type of permethrin. And so very limited number of sprays, just on these dates all in one day. So I really didn't have to spray. One time I thought, well, I better give them a little bit. Here's the blackberries going in. They were planted the 3rd of April. I used them as a perimeter on the back side. There's a road, bank to the road. Deer like to come up over there. I put electric wire on the back outside of that. So I kind of use it as a kind of a physical barrier on at least the one side of the. So it's a long run of blackberries, and you can see we kind of set up here with tape, drill the holes and stuff the plants. I'm a hole driller with an auger and Brian right behind me and put the plants together with all done on the 3rd of April. We did put in, of course, the post came in, and then there you can see it's already established. We got that done all on the 3rd of April. And two fellows can do quite a bit. You know, it's pretty amazing what you can do. I think we said about between the vineyard and the blackberries, we said around 50 posts or something like that. Then we made the hops cuts and said those are the but you can see May 5th, by August 27th, we had a pretty nice hedgerow out there. So by September 15th, we had a pretty nice, we actually had some ballberry and blackberries on it. So, highly productive. You know, they got watered and they got herbicides, right? Because I can't. And all my is very prescriptive. Everything that I sprayed was all with vacuum. We're talking ounces per acre, right? Very limited amount applied, but boy, it sure makes a difference in keeping the competition, keeping the weed growth. Look how the vineyards are growing, the blackberries by the end of the season. Here was my few blackberry pesticides. You could substitute with organic products, but the main thing is you got to control the pests, right? And so again, it's really critical. A few herbicides to keep that clean like I want. There's my spray schedule. Take a lot of spraying. You know, even I tell an organic growers you got to spray more. Why? Why do you have to spray more? Why would I tell an organic grower to spray more? The products typically break down quicker. Yeah, they're less effective sometimes. They break down quicker. Even if they are effective, the permethrin, natural permethrin, only lasts 2 hours, right? This product by Pethrin will last about maybe 2 days. Right? You can a little protection, sometimes a little bit more fit. Peaches and apples. If you want to buy whip trees, if you're able to plant trees, it's best if you can buy just a little whip. So when you put them in the ground, they come in a bag. I don't know if you can see them there. There's just little sticks coming out of the ground. That's a whip. Okay, when you have any leaves on it, then you make a heading cut, 28 inches for apples, 24 inches for peaches. Make a heading cut to promote the branches where you want the branch, right? Now, if you buy a feather tree, you kind of have to plant that the way it's given to you, typically you prune that back. So you have to know what you're getting and then how to start. We used an auger. There's our set their apple block and a peach block. I put a deer, everything on you got deer, you got everything. Oh, yeah, we need to eat more of them. But anyway, the electric fence is something we're gonna have. I still haven't figured the groundhogs out yet. But that's little whip that I cut right here at 28 inches. That time getting little summer when we were doing some teaching, that little apple trees look pretty good. No competition, you gotta have at least a 5-foot area around that tree where those roots take off, with no competition. All the water nutrients go on that tree. That's critical. So you keep, I don't care if you do it with a hoe or whatever you do, you don't have any weeds 5 feet. Okay, all summer long. And you don't stop watering because you never want to see this stop growing. Okay, so we had some pretty tough spells this summer. And I was out there more frequently than I wanted. move and trickle and run around the waterway to keep up with these. I had 16 apples and 16 peaches, and 64, vineyard vines, and, but that's the peach tree by the end of the season, right? Isn't that nice? These peaches will be in production next year. Okay? Apples take a couple more years, but the peaches will be in production. That came from that width, and I cut it 24 inches. And with the diameter, that was probably just about maybe my middle, something like that. But now it's got about 1.5 inches wide. It grew that much in that one summer. Paint them with a little bit of latex paint, that helps keep from splitting in the wintertime. Okay, that's my grandfather would, he'd say, "Oh, that's really good." That's but that latex on there, real thick and heavy, also I think protects against some borers and some other trunk diseases. And if you do use herbicides, it keeps you from getting any absorption of herbicides in the trunk of that tree. So it's a really important thing to do. There's my peach products, and there's how many times I sprayed them. Each time it changes color, changes days. So it's something about, usually most of our fruit that we grow is about 17 sprays. Now, whether if you're organic grower, make that 22 sprays. Okay, because you gotta control the same diseases and insects. Okay. You gotta keep those, you gotta make sure that nothing's eating that tip growth and protecting the leaves that you have so they can synthesize for you, grow that tree. Keep the water going to it, no competition, use whatever spray program you're using, make sure you're using it as often and frequently as you need it to make that sure that that tip growth is protected. And you'll make that, you'll grow a tree. Right? Most of the time I see people put a tree in the ground, they come back later, they can't hardly find the tree. We've grown all up around it, and their tips have long since stopped growing, right? And they'll never bring that tree back. Okay? Yes.
It's sprayable when the light of the tree. It's sprayable when the lights of the tree.
Yeah, this is the spray program that just established program, just to protect that growth. Now I'm starting to protect fruit, so we get more. I'm probably gonna add about 5 more sprays. I don't know how many I've got on here. They're broken out between herbicide, like this was a herbicide, this was a fungicide, insecticide. So they're broken out. I probably had, I didn't know the count, but I probably had about 10 fungicide sprays. I'll probably go to 17 once I get through. And that's the apple trees. They won't come into production this year, but they'll be in production in 26. This is 24, 25. And there's the apples, and there's the apple spray. I just wanted to give that to you, just so you know that I'm out there kind of pest management from a very prescriptive tactic, if you will. But the main thing is the end product, what I want to get into production as fast as I can, right? Because I hope to show that this type of urban farming is that we can be economical as the big one. I want my urban farmers to be as economical and as productive as the big guy. Man, that's pretty impressive, isn't it?
Do you have plans to turn this into an enterprise budget that people can?
Well, I'm hoping to, I'm starting to kind of publish. I got a lot of things on my website and working on YouTube right now to kind of go through all this, what we did this summer. We've got some things, blogs and things. I did a lot of great work with Southern Maryland, so I decided I want to put in mainly red vinifera grapes, maybe Bordeaux, new wine drink this year. The high value stuff, right? So I put in Captain Blanc and Merlot, Petit Bordeaux. And the goal is there's the vineyard going in. They look like, you see when we're planting here, they're just little sticks here. I don't know if you can see them putting that thing in the ground. It's just a little stick, right? That's all you're buying. There it all drilled and ready for the plants and the post. Kind of do that all at one time. And then on the 4th of April, we set that. That was the day after we set the blackberry. I was already sore, but we're out there again. And here we are putting the post in for the vineyard. Okay. And there we are, put the plants in. You can see the rye's grown quite a bit. That was the broad cover crop we had out there, right? And so we're setting the plants on the other stick right there with the tank. See that? But that's what it looked like, going into the middle of summer. Right? Same kind of strategy. I want that new growth to never stop. Right? And so that means water, that means no trying to keep the herbicides in there. No, that's we were herbicides. Actually, when I planted up a little mulch around, find all the strategies you can, right? That get that last fall. So that by the end of the year, storms happen out, everything's near harvest. We have a vineyard that really will be in production next year. Be in full production in 2025. I'll be keeping up, which is 4 tons of vinifera. And that's 1/10 of an acre, 64 lines. And I just was calculating, I think it's like, what did I figure, 800 pounds, and you divide that by 15, that's a gallon. And I think I worked it out around 265 bottles. And if I sold them for 30, and it works out pretty right. $5,000 or something like that, so it's like, pretty cool. Pretty cool amount of money on a little 1/10 of an acre of land. Great pesticides, and there's my great spray shot. And, any hop growers, they're fun. They really, I hate picking them, but they're fun, they're beautiful. And so I actually had the first research hops yard up in the University of Maryland. What's our time?
You got about 5 minutes.
Okay, I know it's quick. The hops growing
Difference at all?
is
Huge difference.
I actually had the first university bring on hops vineyard at Upper Marble. Actually had the first
Difference only.
vineyard and the first research hops yard at Upper Marble University of Maryland. And I know we can grow them. So I came up with this laminate post that I actually make with 2x4s. Glue and 2x4s, and they're just Brian setting them. We can set them by hand ourselves, which is nice. We put the wire in them as we go up with it, right? So the wire goes up with the trellis. 2 guys, no cherry picker, no big equipment. Back and muscle, getting them up. And that's what we had to by the time we got good season. Okay. Again, hops love water, they love nitrogen. Really, I think the only way you can grow hops is with a good nitrogen source like there is. Something very quick and active. You want to get that much production. I can't believe that's 20 foot. That's a 20-foot hole, right? It's in the ground 2.5 feet. So it's 17.5 feet up out of the ground. That's a long way up. And there's the hop cones we're picking. Can't even see Heather on the other side. And there's, we're picking the hops. And we delivered them to Firm Brewing Company. So we had that same in with that. At one time we had 5 beers on tap at the Firm Brewery in Crawford on the products in our little. And again, remember, this is all this 1 year. That's common. They were huge. It almost fills your hand. And so there's the beers that we had with Comet Cascade, and they used them to wet hop beers that they already had hopped.
So different plants have
Hoppy wet
different.
hop IPA. And I fell in love with it. So it's pretty cool. So there's our spicy urban farmer with strawberry, and then we had the wet hop IPA Dividing Sky at the Firm Brewing Company. And there's where we're pointing out, I have a little dog in my hand, we're pointing out all the beers. I think we might have a beer or two while we were enjoying the different tastes of stuff. But you can see the vineyard and the hops yard, and of course it's manicured. Appeal, I really think if you're gonna have an urban farm that is going to, where the public's gonna come out and have enjoyment on your farm and kind of agro entertainment, you want eye appeal. They'll come back, okay? They'll get so excited. So keeping it mowed, keeping it kind of weedy, get into good production, they can produce.
Oh, no, you have a question from online when we get to that point.
I'll hold on. There, actually, those went to the brewery lab. We have a fermentation program now. So we sent some hops to some students there, come over and pick. And I'll forego that. Hops do take a lot of fungicides and insecticides, unfortunately. Then Herb got into his corn. On 5/22, we planted corn, buckwheat, sunflowers, and asparagus, all, and use this little planter here and my little tractor, and that's how we do all the work, my little tractor, my equipment, because I've always been an urban farmer. And so we got buckwheat, and I use buckwheat as a nurse crop for my asparagus. That was direct seed asparagus. So I've been using herbicides on asparagus because of direct seeding, and I overseeded. I tilled the ground just a couple rows, about 4 feet wide. I went down through the disc with the disc a couple times in the cover crop, and then I came through and I seeded with a hand seeder the asparagus, and then I went over top with the I had already done the buckwheat. I put that in ahead of time, then I went through with the hand seeder with the asparagus, and I use that as a nurse crop. For anyone seed asparagus, direct seed asparagus is really actually interesting. The only problem is you get both male and female. So you just cut the male plants, and everyone else that doesn't know any better can eat the female plants again. They actually taste the same. They just don't, they burn out all even when they're young. Right? They don't have that nice spike that you think. It tastes the same. And there there's the buckwheat over there. That was near the beehive. And so there's the buckwheat growing. There's the asparagus growing. After the buckwheat's going, I topped it. I went over the mower. It just kind of topped it and held the mower up high and topped it. The buckwheat and allowed the asparagus to get wet. It worked pretty well. I was pretty sad. This is why I covered it. We actually captured that beehive. They just showed up one day. grabbed, grabbed a box and stuck it right in front of them on the ground, and the queen went in and we had to hide. I didn't move it because didn't have a suit, but we had somebody move it for us out here to the periphery where we put the buckwheat. Heather's working on trapping, we did moth trapping, we're looking for corn earworm, fall earworm, western bean, cutworm, and we were using pheromones and those truck right traps, and we kept along with that. And there's my little planter that I use, I like it, it's a cold planter, costs quite a bit, $22.82, I think that was with all the plates. And the planter itself was 18, but it's a nice little single row planter. It has to be ground, has to be sealed, but I like strip field. And there's Herb, and there's the corn varieties we came out of this year, they're all milling corn. Anyone eat polenta? It's Italian, Floriani, and Floriani is a red plant polenta corn. And so that came out of that project that Herb was looking at. Corn pesticides, here's our buildings that we were looking at, those traps, there's the trap cycles, that's all online, so it's kind of nice to know what those things are doing. You know, we probably should pay our farmers that use genetically modified BT corn because they drop the population of those moths over time. So I think next time you see a farmer, hand him a 20 and say, thanks for controlling some of these more worms and things for me, okay? They're paying technology fees for that, so they should get some of that. Here's our sunflower plot. I did use some herbicides in there. See the hops in the background. And the only thing I sprayed was herbicides for those that planted. Okay, to get the sunflower. Here we are doing the pumpkins. I let that one strip of rye go all the way up, right? And then we basically got out there and stripped it. I wanted to keep that rye because you keep a mat down there for the pumpkins to keep them. You know, if we spoil rotten so bad, reduce the amount of fungicide that you need. And it was so dry, we went 40 days without rain by the time we got to planting day here on the 9th of June. And it was so hard and dry that I had to have Brian water ahead of the rototiller. So we worked our tail off on this 1/10 of an acre, trying to get about 1/10 of an acre pumpkin plotted. And every 6 feet, I mowed the strip, I took the blades off, except for the center blade on there, I went through. So you can see the mower going down through, mowing off, and then coming back through, watering, then tilling it, and getting it prepared. I was still going to get a planter down here that was even still pretty dry after that. So we actually ended up planting it by hand. And that's kind of like planting pumpkins by hand. Then I went over top of my backpack sprayer, a Jack-Toe backpack sprayer, and sprayed the whole thing with herbicides. And here's a kind of a picture. See if I can fit it here.
Yeah. Let me.
No, I got it. There it is. Here it goes. That's me, want to rabbit. See that? But that's me coming through and doing the strip. I really do a lot with strip cropping, so I thought that was kind of fun. And here's our pumpkin timeline of the herbicides initially, later application of Sandia, and then some other fungicides. Some of these are already organic, like phosphate, you can put sulfur in there. You can do other organic approaches in there too. You can see the weed control. You know, we pretty much got a weed-free environment, and that later Sandia cleaned that up. Again, very detailed. I think I used maybe 1/10 of an ounce product to clean that up. And there, our pumpkins are growing weed-free, and so we go through the year with the pumpkins, get to the end, we'll cut, and there's a fit for that. So pumpkins, the pesticides we use, put the cover crop in, and so we got a cover crop sitting out there. That's what it looks like right now, waiting for spring. And anyway, I think it really is it really did what I think I wanted it to do. We got off to a really good start in the urban farm. I'm going to look at the economics of it. I'm going to look at the pest management side of it, and also look at the appeal. Everyone that comes out and looks it. You know, I mean, they want to know when's the next event at your urban farm. That's what I want. And I know that's what you want as urban farmers to do. I'm that excited about what you're doing. So anyway, we got a blog, Instagram, all of them. And so keep up with us and come on out.
Thank you for the whirlwind tour. I know that's not a lot of time to show 2 years of work.
I know.
Thank you. Carol had a question online about whether you had any conversations with neighbors about pesticide use. She said that she had a orchard in her neighborhood that ended up stopping some pesticides.
You know, I use a backpack air blast and a backpack broadcast sprayer. And I am so on the target that no one would ever know I was spraying. You know, I'm so detailed and so on the target. And we're talking about, the whole acre. I mean, You know, even if you were to spray the whole acre, it'd be 25 gallons of water, but I'm just going to do it portions of an acre at a time, usually about 2.5 gallons of water. And just basically do it. And to me, it's, of course, I'm a herbicide, you know, I'm a weed scientist, right? I don't understand the chemistry of all these things, I've lived these things all my life. But to me, I believe I'm code plumbing too. So I understand doing it without it and doing it with. I just don't have the time to do it without. Really want to do it without.
Deer.
Deer.
Was that fence?
Electric fence was mainly for deer, it is pretty successful.
Everybody wants me to put up a 6 foot.
No, single wire, and as long as it's small and you train to put it out there before anything's out there, the deer want. You want the deer fence out there a week before, you put the apple tree in. They will, they love it. In fact, I did get one buck in and beat one tree down to the ground, I have a tree. So it is, they're problematic, yeah. I think ground balls are more trouble. From a standpoint of the consumer. And I think it was small, we're growing small plots, you know, and they get my pumpkin pads, and I can watch, you know, big, 40-foot area and disappear. So to me, they're more trouble. Yeah.
Using single wire, not from off the ground.
You want it knee high. Yeah, right about there. You don't want them, they actually will go under something before they go over. And so you only want them given the opportunity to go on.
Oh, just the knee high one.
You wanna put another one? If you're trying to keep ground logs out, I would put a lower wire. The only problem with the lower wire is as soon as it leaves, you kill your.
Sorry
I
to
know,
keep us
I know.
rolling, but I think we're gonna have some field days at Big's research clinic in the spring, so keep an eye out if you wanna go see stuff in person. Our last speaker today, our last group of speakers is Rachel Rosenberg Goldstein's lab. This is Emmy Healy. She's gonna talk with us about rainwater harvesting.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me and thank you guys for sticking around, and we're gonna do some questions in a bit, so we're gonna get your input as well. And so I'm just gonna go over a little bit about our research on harvesting rainwater. And so our big question is, can harvested rainwater be used safely for irrigation on your small farms and urban farms?
Oops, sorry, I think it should work now. Okay, just clicking on the Zoom.
So for anybody who doesn't use harvested rainwater, what is it basically? According to the EPA, it's any way that you can collect and then store that rainwater for later use. And this can be done in a bunch of different ways. It can be off of your high tunnels in Austin, or you can collect it directly from a rooftop. This is a UN or NC State extension graphic, and some of the systems can get a little complicated. You can have different parts of it, but really it's just collecting off of the roof into your either your rain barrel or your cistern. And then that becomes your alternate source to a municipal or city source for your water. And the big question is, how do we know if it's safe for your use? And so what I do in the lab is to look for microbes. We do similar testing as well, but this is our big thing. So I'm trained in microbiology, and what we're looking for is primarily E. coli. And so not all E. coli are pathogenic. So we look for a generic E. coli, and that basically tells us if we think there is some form of fecal contamination. Other times we're looking for a pathogen specifically, so things like salmonella or listeria, we can also look for that in the water. And so in order to say, okay, is it safe or not, we're really listening to the agricultural practice standards, and we're looking at our levels and comparing it to the standard. And so this is that 126. And so in our lab, which I have the pleasure of working with, we do a lot of lab work, but we're also in the field. And what we're going to do is look for those different microbes in different settings. And we've been doing a lot of work on small farms and urban farms. And so this is a study that was done up in Frederick, and they had 2 different sites where they were looking at harvested rainwater that actually had a first flush diverter. So this is a system that basically the first unit of water that's collected they get rid of, and they collect the rest of it. And then they were actually irrigating subsurface, so they were pumping it underneath in their beds, and that's how they were irrigating.
Sorry, just a sec, I need to fix the slides.
What does that mean, Washington, fixing it,
There we go.
like pumping it underground?
So I believe these have raised beds, and then the irrigation comes in underneath, so there's watering it, like put up like on top of.
Like lift your lines?
So instead of drip lines, they come in underneath. I believe that's.
It's like a raised bed with multiple layers of different material like gravel and sand, and then there's wetting material to pull it up.
So instead of like basically, if you had a contaminant in your water and you could spray it on top, it's guys leaving you the bottom. So this riper study that's in Frederick, we'll go on the slides.
You're good on the sides. You should be able to go now. Does it work? Yes.
Awesome, okay, so again, we're looking for those microbes. In this study, we looked for Salmonella and Listeria, and they found none in the water samples that they collected, and then again, they're looking at E. coli, and so comparing it to that good agricultural practice standard. And what they found, if you look at that standard that's way up here, all the samples were below.
Sorry, getting that out of the way so people can see.
Wait,
Okay.
did you say what it's coming out of Maru?
So for this one,
Yeah.
this is collected, I believe this was root, yeah, this is from root collected and then pumped in the beds, so underneath. Okay, so this is looking at the water, we're seeing no Salmonella or Listeria, and then the E. coli was below that gap standard. So then there's another study, and this was done here in Baltimore, and this is looking at water quality, and so this one was all farms and community gardens, this is their irrigation water again. And so this was cool because we had places that had harvested rainwater. One of our sites actually used both of them, and then a lot of them had municipal, so we're looking at both sources, so your standard source, your city source of water, and then this harvested rainwater as well. So again, we're just looking at E. coli, say like, is there fecal contamination? How does it do compared to our standard? And you can see all of our dots here, these orange ones are municipal water, these triangles are harvested rainwater, and this is our concentration that we're comparing against. The majority are below this line, which is good, meaning that we're meeting that standard. We only really had these two here that exceeded that, and these are actually residential sources. So everybody that was a larger farm or community garden, they had water that was that met the standard, it was below that level. And these residential ones were the only ones that exceeded it. So the last project I want to talk about is the project that I'm using for my own research that I got to be a part of this huge team of that me and Rachel and everybody and Benny is on. And so this is a pretty big project. I'm working with this first objective here, which is to test water. And I'll show you how we're going to set it up. But then we're also going to have you guys help with our objective 2, hopefully, so we can get an idea of the different benefits for how we use this water. And so this is taking place at 2 different farms. Right now, we're in Upper Marlboro, and we're working eventually with Farmer Kippy down in Baltimore. And so what we're doing is we're collecting water off of, at the current farm in Upper Marlboro, we're collecting off of a barn into a really giant, like 500-gallon tank. And then that water, we're gonna irrigate with harvested rainwater, municipal water. We're gonna filter the harvested rainwater using a special filter that has sand and CPI metal in it, so hopefully we're gonna trap some stuff. We have an awesome high tunnel set up, so we're irrigating with it. And then we're gonna collect a bunch of samples. We're gonna test the water, we're gonna test the soil, we're gonna test the produce. And we're really interested to see if we can find the Listeria, Salmonella, and E. coli again on any of these things. And so this is the very beginning of this project. So again, we're just looking for mainly these microbes and see if we can figure out if it's safe or not. This is just a picture of our current site. It's not harvested rainwater, so we're again collecting it in a very large barrel. And so in this instance, this is a barrel that this farm already owned, so we were reusing. And this is our high tunnel that we're gonna be planting in, and then that was the lettuce that we are growing in our first set of experiments. So just some concluding thoughts for you all. This could be a really valuable alternative source of water. Maybe you can collect it and then use it. And there's really no difference in the E. coli concentration between the municipal and the harvested, but as you saw, those residential barrels, those 2 that exceeded it, there is variability. So if you're unsure about your water quality, you can always test it. And our lab does lots of testing, and if that's something that you're interested in, I have a contact list that you can sign up for actually. We do this all the time. This is pretty much our main thing. Yeah, and so because of that variability, we're very interested to see what we're gonna find in this new experiment. And hopefully we'll get more information for you guys in the future. Yeah.
Given that
the E. coli was higher in that residential setting because they weren't like utilizing emptying the barrel as frequently, or do you have any like hypothesis as to why it was higher there?
So we definitely don't know, there hasn't really been like comparison study and we haven't looked at it ourselves. But one of the big differences that we were just visually observing is that a lot of residential barrels are like right next to a roof that often has like tree cover, or it's in an environment where a lot of, yeah, so a lot of the contamination can come from birds pooping on roofs and that's gonna flood in. And then our urban farms, we're in a high tunnel and there's nothing else around, like, so we're getting flyover, but maybe not as densely populated with the birds and whatever's out there as residential that have a barrel next to somebody's house that has like trees on it.
Was everybody in that study doing a monthly like bleach of the cistern? Because I've heard that that is like the required maintenance for your rain barrel.
So are you talking about,
I forget whose
This-
workshop I went to, it was maybe 2 years ago now, but they said like 1.5 ounces of 55-gallon tank. Like monthly, you should add that. Just to keep those E. coli levels and whatever other bacteria that could grow down.
yeah, so I'm not sure about this study.
So that, you're right, that is the best practice that's recommended. We were just testing whatever people were really doing. So we could collect it, we're not presenting today, but we could collect that off when people are treating, but most people are just kind of following their own practice, and so we're just trying to look at what's really happening.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think you kind of already answered this, but like, does it come from the rainwater itself, the E. coli, like existing rainwater, or comes from like deer or, I guess more like in birds, you're saying, or like where do these contaminants?
Yeah, so the E. coli, we call it a fecal indicator, which basically means that it's coming from a source of something that it's enteric to, so it's growing the stomach up, so that is like your birds or anything else that you get on your roof, squirrels, anything, and so those are defecating, and then that's washing into your rain barrel. If your rain barrel is like new, or you keep up with your maintenance, which is really important, like we're saying, like bleaching, that should kill it or prevent it from starting, but yeah, because we're in an open system where the rain can collect everything, that's the source. And so there are like a few studies on like trying to track it back, like, it's like coming from this eagle that's on my farm, or is it coming from the squirrels, but.
Any look at PFAS level?
No, so not for our work, but I do think there are other studies that are interested in that as well, especially in drinking water, but this is purely irrigation water.
So our E. coli concentration is mostly a concern if you put them on edible plants, or can you just do it on ornamentals and not be concerned about elevated E. coli concentrations?
Yeah, so this gap standard is for basically for yeah, especially produce that you're consuming raw is like the main concern, so. Again, that we're looking at the irrigation water, and so there's lots of steps between your water and what you're gonna be exposed to, because you're going to. Basically irrigate with it, you have time for it to die off and like before you harvest it, and then if you're harvesting, hopefully you're washing like your lettuce before you're eating it. But yeah, standards in relation to like your fresh produce.
Is there still a danger of using like drip irrigation? As opposed to like the regular irrigation?
With your harvested,
Yeah, with harvest irrigation, or, yeah. Yeah, we put it potentially have a coli, like, it doesn't actually contact the leaves of, for example, like kale or something like that, you're using the drip underneath mulch, so does that still the same?
gotcha, so you're like reducing like your spray then.
Right, yeah.
That's a great question, I'm not actually
Yeah,
sure.
that is a best practice if you don't, if you're not sure your water's clean, using drip irrigation is a really good idea.
When there are E. coli networks, I don't know outbreaks, so they track it back, it's related to a functioning vegetable. Because the rainwater goes down and sits in the inside of the leaf structure.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, are you seeing that like farmers are generally like excited to have these like rainwater capture systems on their farms? And also the general concern is like safety.
I'd love to know the answer to that. Is anybody here? Yeah.
And I'm gonna be time quick, but yeah, that's why we're doing the surveys, like,
Yeah, we're really interested in knowing.
Yeah.
What the opinions are on this, if we do actually use it on your farm, is it something that you see that would be easy to implement? And we're gonna get that, do you have another quick question while we switch?
Yes, you're not supposed to use rainwater on root crops though, right?
So yeah, if you're trying to comply with the federal produce safety rule.
Yeah.
You're supposed to use water that meets the standards to irrigate your root crops, even if you're using drip irrigation, because then it goes in. So that's the exception to the drip irrigation, like get out of jail free card is
That's
root
the-
crops.
But if you treat it, then it could be compliant.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Like a monthly bleach. would
yeah,
Maybe qualify.
yeah, you'd have to keep records to make
Yeah.
sure like it's actually working, because
Yeah.
bleach is tricky, like if it gets dirt in it, but yeah.
Right, okay.
And you have your water tested, and we do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, growing, like, growing mushrooms, I'm gonna do shipping containers, but I wanna harvest some rainwater.
Oh.
Like mushrooms are a little bit different because you're using it for humidification system, so you know, but it can come in contact.
Like sitting here has been so wonderful for like just being here all day, so. thank
Carol
you,
says there's no
yes.
federal
So I
standards.
reached out for
for
these,
the water. Yeah,
because there might be
so
some
that might be
questions
something I
that,
might get you more information.
So we can kind of capture different practices. But real quick, because I know we're at the end, sorry,
That's a new acronym.
I'm a geologist, so I got into water resources, through studying rivers and streams. So professional geologist, so my undergraduate and master's is, I looked at dam removal and sediment transport. My doctorate, I came into ag, so I studied, economics of cover crops. So that's where I'm interested in, just the economics of like how people make choices and why they might switch to, using this type of practice. So again, that's what we're looking for today is feedback on this draft survey that I handed out, wording, any questions you have about how it's worded. And if you did fill it out, you can hand it to me, before you leave, because we want to change the wording and then make it live and then send it to, other farmers. But yeah, any other questions for Emmy or, because it seemed like that's kind of what we're looking at. The safety, because with, oops. So if you, like I said, take a couple minutes, are there any questions on it right now that I can just clear up and just sort of look at it?
Does this or does the study include anything with using it for value added products too?
Yes, yeah, and I guess, see now, I didn't read we have to, so for research purposes, we have to read a disclaimer, because if we collect your data, like for it's called IRB.
Human research.
Yeah, human research, we have to follow protocol, so just real quick, to be read aloud by project investigators. These are focus group questions for urban farmers and gardeners to provide information for research on urban farm irrigation choices. The intent is to determine if rainwater harvesting is an alternative you would consider and what the costs and benefits of changing irrigation practices may entail. The focus group will last between 15 and 20 minutes. So we're not going to do a focus group today, but maybe next year, or so we're kind of starting our study right now. And Emmy has the first, they've done the first tests on the captured rainwater. There's a risk of breach of confidentiality from the personal identifiable information, such as name and contact information that you may provide, but this will be mitigated by storing it on data on password protected computers and using a two-step authenticated account. So we're going to control all the data. Like there's not going to be anything done with the data other than being stored and used for research purposes. There are no direct benefits to participants. Indirectly, participants will learn about the costs and benefits of rainwater harvesting. Only the project team members will have access to the data collected as part of this project. Personally identifiable data will be destroyed 24 months after data collection is complete. Participation is voluntary and participants can withdraw at any time. Please answer all the questions to the best of your ability so that we can understand barriers to irrigation opportunities for urban agriculture. And if you have any questions, then so I do have my contact information. So that was really the kind of the purpose of me kind of being at the end, giving a survey out. It is, so there was a survey done for the city of Baltimore that this is kind of modeled after, and they did look at the same things that we're looking at, harvesting rainwater And, you know, obviously Baltimore has a good number of urban agriculture. There's different things that we're gonna ask about, same thing, like, we understand there's current water practices. Some 14% at that time, oh, actually, this is a 2021 study, sorry. 14% from this study, they are collecting rainwater. Is anybody collecting rainwater now? Okay, I was gonna say, we didn't even ask that, so because already.
But it's not freezing outside, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so I was thinking, I'm like, there's gotta, you're trying it out already. So again, if you have our contact information and if you wanna stay connected. But yeah, some of the things are the safety, and that's exactly why the study's being done, like, they're still concerned about safety. But what I'm interested in too is, what are reasons to not use rainwater? Like, we understand that these are, you know, your budgets are tight and you would do it maybe for different reasons. Would it be to save money? We know that that's kind of questionable, but, and also the ease of use, so we're costing out the different configurations of the capturing systems. The one on Turk Farm is capturing from the hoop house. Functionality, like even, you know, do you have to pump it? Do you, like, what is the best configuration? And each farm is probably gonna be different. So we're kind of looking at all the costs, and I should probably survey you guys of like what you did, what did it cost? How do you like it? And then what was really nice, so that's my last slide, but what was really nice too is the idea that a lot of, you know, practices have funding for it. So, and there's even new funding. So if you are interested in changing or adding rainwater harvesting, we're learning that there's more and more federal support, state support, extension support. So that's it. I'm done. It's had a wonderful day. It's been long, and I'm like, I know. I talk about laugh a lot, and I'm like in between people here. Dinner. You know,
I'm sorry, I put you in the toughest spot of the day, but you did an amazing job.
I mean, like, hopefully next year I'll come back and we'll have some results and we'll start to like talk a little bit more about, you know, what we've been doing. So thank you, everybody.
I just wanted to thank you all for sticking it out to the end, and you know, they haven't kicked us out yet, so go talk to each other on your way out. Thank you. I know I owe you a reply about a pruning workshop. I didn't think you'd get back to me at all. Yeah. If you would, they've talked about stuff, so I guess there's relevance, but you don't have to. But so we give this questionnaire at all the farmer meetings across the state. Not all of it's relevant. If you want to skip. I might be stalking you.
Where else are you going now? You going to pass?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be there.
I may be.
It's my favorite. Have you been?
Is it?
Yeah.
It's, yeah, I figured, yeah, because they have, fun.
Yeah.
It's in Lancaster. I'm spending the night up there. Oh,
I applied for the scholarship.
did you get it?
Yes. I know. That's like makes the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've always been interested in going there. So maybe,
Oh, yeah, you'll love it.
okay.
It's like.
Is it too much?
No.
Okay.
No, you'll love it. There's just like so much. Like.
Is it applicable to Maryland?
Yeah.